check the function.
Minister, I want to start by saying that on my way up today from Kilkenny, I was listening to a number of news reports that were describing children and young people, describing their family and living situation in hubs and B&Bs as being like being in prison. So as a society, we have completely failed when young people are describing their living arrangements as being in prison. And I honestly don't know how many debates we have to have in this chamber. I actually think I said this exact same thing last year in relation to how many debates we have before the government realises that this has gone beyond crisis and it's gone beyond an emergency situation with the amount of homeless and the really negative impact this is having on children, on young people, on their mental health, on how they see themselves in the world, on their self-esteem. They describe it as being ashamed and being embarrassed. And it's just absolutely not good enough. And to be honest, Minister, I really don't think that you get it, because if you did, I think you'd be doing a lot more about it. I have very limited time, and I want to talk about particularly the education point of view for kids going to school who are forced to live in emergency accommodation. We know that 1 in every 4 primary schools has children who are experiencing homelessness, and teachers are at the forefront dealing with the impact of this on the children they are teaching. Where a school has identified a homeless child in a class, it is not the duty of the teacher or school alone to cater for that child. The state must recognise that teachers in schools in these instances must be better resourced and provided with additional wraparound support to assist homeless students, particularly those undertaking exams where suitable study spaces and accommodation are critical to their outcomes. They must be able to draw on additional financial supports to provide for the needs of students, for example, transport, school books, uniforms. Where homelessness has been identified, they should be able to provide meals, homework clubs and supervised study. This would tackle the issue of no access to study time or study spaces, which Focus Ireland highlights. And while I don't ever like to be saying that we should be nearly justifying, I think when we talk about the services sometimes we're justifying the homeless situation, but at least let's make it a little bit better for those children that are forced to be in that situation. And another thing that I think we should look at, and that hasn't been explored enough, even though it's often mentioned by ministers when they speak about the supports that are available for children, is the school completion programme. Its funding has been cut over the last 10 years. It has not been increased. They provide a great service to a lot of children, and I think that if that programme was better resourced and better financed, they'd be able to do an awful lot more. And I also think that we cannot just rely on classifying children who are in the DEIS schools in terms of support. There is homeless children all over the country, not only in DEIS schools, so we need to ensure that the supports are following the children. But at the end of the day, we need to build homes, we need to look at any sort of emergency measures that can be put in place in terms of CPO and properties. We have to stop talking about this in this chamber and stop normalising the situation and actually create solutions. There's been countless solutions put forward. There was a cross-party committee in 2016 on the housing and homeless situation where we had all-party agreement on a lot of different measures. Let's start implementing some of these. We're constantly told it's not an issue of funding and money, so if it isn't, then let's start putting the measures in place. 3 years down the road, the situation is getting worse. Thanks, Les Carla.